Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Did you guys get your taxes filed on time? I sure did. Submitted it just a few hours ago. Not too shabby. I'm a very responsible beer podcaster. What's that you say? This isn't the Toronto income tax filing podcast? No, it's Monday. You know what the deal is. It is the Toronto Beer Podcast with me, your host, Chris Schreier, and that must mean that you're about to hear the lovely tones of none other than Mr. Rob Currie and the Currie brothers. Take us there, Rob. Yes, indeed. Pride of Gravenhurst, Ontario. As always, check that record out. Link in the description. It's called Link Ray Guns, so you didn't know what I was going to say there. I could have been tricking you. Anyhow, hey, how you kids doing? You have a good day, good weekend? Oh, I finished out my 3 weeks of holiday. Went back to work today, and I got to be honest with you, it felt good. Good to get back. I've come to appreciate something, especially when I'm off for as long as that, 3 weeks. I really got to keep my fitness up. I get pretty depressed if I'm not staying pretty active, and I'm a pretty active guy. And so, as much as I love just lying around on the couch, it's just not good for me mentally or emotionally. I really need to be more intentional about that. But this isn't the Toronto self help podcast, although sometimes it could be. This is the Toronto Beer Podcast, and I'm really excited to get into this beer. So, I'm just going to get cracking on this. You are looking at, if you're watching the live video, a Monogamy IPA from our friends at Bellwoods. I might have done this before. I'm not sure if I've done this specific one. This is Monogamy Mosaic. It's a single hop IPA. It might be single malt too. A smash, they call that, single malt and single hop, SMASH. Not sure if that's the case, but it's a single hop anyway. And it's just Mosaic. That's all they use in it. So we get a real good picture of what Mosaic hits like and the way they've used it. So that's pretty exciting. I'm gonna get in here. Oh, just a little drip of water in that glass. I just want to get rid of. Oh shoot, kids at home. Sorry, kids at home. I know your favorite part of the show is when I pour the beer in the glass. Yes, indeedy. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, I mean, it might be single malt and that they only use one type of malted barley, but if there isn't wheat and or oats in this, just going by the appearance, I'd be very surprised because this is getting into the neighborhood of what Ben Johnson calls an orange juice beer. There's no floaties in it. Bellwood doesn't F with that noise, but it is definitely a very opaque yellow, very nice bright yellow, tending fairly dark in the middle, but a very delightful color. It's really enticing me to drink it, but I'm going to sniff it first. Okay. Okay. Hang on. Huh. Huh. Oh. Huh. Friends, I tend to think of Mosaic. I mean, Mosaic gets used so heavily anyway, but I tend to think like Mosaic often kicks off like a bit of berry or strawberry in some contexts. I'm getting like white grapes off of this. Like hang on. It's almost a little white winey, like a little Venice. Oh, hang on. Melons. Like cantaloupe, maybe? White winey. Definitely very white grapey. Huh. That's really interesting. I mean, it does sort of smell like Mosaic. I've just never really thought this in detail about it because I tend to have Mosaic with, say, Citra or Simcoe or both. And it kind of rounds things out, adds a little zhuzh at the bottom end. But this on its own, yeah, like my first appearance was white grape, very much so. All right, let's taste it. Let's see if that sticks. You never know when you transition to the old mouth-a-roni. Hmm. 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 Ooh, very prickly. I like that. I need another sip. Oh, hmm. That's very interesting. Huh. That was almost a little hard to pin down. It's very, I mean, so it's hop driven. Specifically Mosaic hop driven. That's what it says on the can. But I'm just pouring the last little bit in the glass. If you hear a little glugging, um, the grape thing is there, but it's a little bit more subdued on the palate. Initially, it's a little minerally and also like evergreeny, but tending towards cedar and more like the smell of cedar when somebody's been trimming their cedar hedges. If that makes any sense to you. There's a certain woody quality to the cedar I'm getting off of that. I suppose you could just go with evergreen. It's not really piney. It's more cedary, if you ask me. But then there's also another sip. There's a bit of like citrus peel, like grapefruitiness almost. But it's almost more of an astringency that I think my brain is just looking at this beer and going, "Oh yeah, it's white grapefruit peel." I'm not necessarily sure I'm exactly getting that. And then yeah, there's definitely melon. What's the green melon called? Winter melon? No, that's not it. What's the green one called? The green melon. Uh, you know the green one. That one called the green melon. Uh, you know the green one. That one. Not so much cantaloupe. Cantaloupe's sweeter. Melony, the honeydew melon. Bit of honeydew melon maybe, and then it's not as vinous, but there is still white grape to the flavor. Um, I suppose the finish is still a little. The finish might even be piney. Maybe I'm getting a little precious about the cedar. No, I still think cedar when I first taste it, and the finish is quite. It's not as stringent. It's just nicely bitter. It's not squeaky on my teeth, but there's a squeakiness to it that hits on resin, piney, maybe cedary. Less cedary on the finish, more just kind of generic evergreen, I would say. The more that I have, the less I'm getting that white grapefruit peel thing. I think it's just the bitterness. There's a lot of alpha acid to this. I'm assuming they must have used it as a bittering hop as well. There's a minerality to it. Again, not like a white wine minerality. We had this a couple weeks ago with a different IPA. Chalky isn't quite the right word, but it's not a bad thing. It's a little hard to put my exact finger on that minerally quality, like almost like wet concrete. Wet concrete probably doesn't sound very attractive. Um, and by wet concrete, I don't mean like not cured. I mean like a sidewalk that's been rained on. That kind of minerality. Does that make sense? Is that ringing any bells for anybody else? Hmm. Yeah, the more sips I have, the more that the melon and the white grape are there. You almost kind of need to get everything coated with the alphas, and then your brain sort of stops paying attention to those. It's like, okay, I get it. You're here. You guys just keep doing your own thing. I'm going to pay attention to these other things, and that's when you kind of get definitely white grapes. Yeah, melon, honeydew-ish, and yeah, a bit of cedar, like freshly cut cedar. Something just a touch woody. The other side of that, the malt profile. I I do believe I wouldn't be surprised if there was only one type of malt in this, and if it was like Pilsner malt or just kind of stock two row. That would not surprise me. There is, I would probably bet money there's oats in this, but not a lot. It's got a nice mouthfeel without. It's not even velvety or creamy yet. It's just nicely dense. And is there wheat in this? Mm, I've been burned by this before. Hmm. It's not evident. I don't taste it. I kind of feel like there is though. There's something about the body. Nah, I'm gonna go with no. I don't think so. There might be, but if there is, it's only a little. I would guarantee there's oats. Color though, maybe there is. It's definitely got an oaty, milky looking haze to it. Maybe some wheat in there. Finish very assertively bitter. This, by the way, has this. As I was saying, I'm pretty sure they've used this as a bittering hop as well. This is not New England IPA fruit juice. This is like there's a solid bite to this. It's probably, I mean, it's not West Coast just in appearance, um, but there is enough. Like I don't know what the IBU is on it. I don't know if it says on the can. I'll read in a minute. But like this wouldn't surprise me if it was up in like the 50 range, calculated. I don't know about lab testing. I don't have the lab to test it, if I'm honest with you. But it's significantly bitter in a very nice way. Yeah, wet concrete. I think that's the mineral thing that I'm looking for. Again, not in a bad way. That's not that. As soon as you say wet, people think you're going to say wet cardboard, which is oxidization. This isn't like that. It's not a flaw. It's something that the hops are doing. There's a mineral thing to them. Yeah, a little bit like wet concrete, wet pavement. Hmm. It's interesting. It's not as bright as I was expecting it to be. That bitterness is definitely there. That there's that fruitiness, but even the grape. I mean, melons aren't necessarily particularly bright anyway. And actually, that goes even further. I don't think there is that white grapefruit thing. I think that was my brain was playing a trick on me, because there isn't any of that bright citrusy thing going on. It's fairly bitter. There's some interesting grapey, melony things happening. Some evergreen, some again cedar. Um, yeah, it's an interesting beer. It's pretty tasty. Mm, no, no, I, I am that. It is tasty. This isn't a beer I would necessarily drink a lot of personally. It's a very interesting beer. It's cool. It's interesting how the mosaic's tasting in this. This isn't necessarily exactly what I would have expected, um, coming off of mosaic, but it's what it is, at least to me. It's what I'm tasting. Um, I think, well, one of the things is there's a reason why it's noteworthy when you make an IPA with only one type of hop, to really kind of layer in some interest, build some depth to that hop profile. You typically need to. You don't have to, but it's made easier if you're willing to play with a few different varieties of hops, particularly if you want to use something that isn't necessarily the most aromatic, but has an assertive bitterness for your bittering addition, and then focus on using more interesting aromatic things towards the end to build in some of that stuff. I think actually part of the thing too, it's occurring to me, part of the reason I think why this isn't quite drinking quite right is because there isn't Citra in it. And I'm not like a Citra fanatic. I mean, a fully Citra based beer is fine. Like there are some really good ones out there. It can be done well. There are also a number of examples where people just kept dumping Citra into a beer in the hopes that if a bit of Citra is good, a lot of Citra is better, which not the case. But and I've said this in the past, every IPA, pale ale, any American New World style hop forward beer, even if you don't use Citra, like because you want Citra taste, there should be some Citra in the beer because it works like salt. It just there's a brightening effect. There's a roundness that it brings to the beer, regardless of anything else you put in it. If you throw a decimal percentage of your hop bill is Citra, that's helpful. Uh, Pardon me, it's a good thing. And because this is a single hop beer, this doesn't have Citra in it. That might also be part of the reason why I'm like, it's not one dimensional. It's not thin, but it just doesn't feel quite finished somehow, and I think that's what it is. I think I just need a little Citra in my beer. Just to brighten things up a little. Let's go to the can here. By the way, bought this at the LCBO. Did I? Yeah, yeah, LCBO. Pretty sure you can get it at Loblaws too, and absolutely at the brewery. And I would highly endorse going there. I don't get out west that often. Ingredients: water, malted barley, wheat, oats, hops, yeast. Okay, there's wheat in here. And assuming they're following the usual convention, there's more wheat than there is oats. They don't have to. It's not a legal requirement, but that's pretty typical, and I can't see why they wouldn't. Man, the branding on this can is just beautiful. What a nice looking can. Oh, hey, Anthony. Didn't see you join us. Yeah, monogamy. Monogamy Mosaic. Hard to say. Really nice IPA. Again, hey, if this is a beer that you love and you drink it multiple cans at a time, all night, every night, that's great. And like, I'm glad you've landed on something you love. To me, this is a very interesting beer. It's super cool. Amazing how much like unique flavor things are kicking off of this that I wasn't necessarily expecting. But in general, as a beer, the reality, actually, to be honest with you, there aren't a ton of single hop beers that I'm really like gung ho for. And again, I've had some that are bad. This is definitely not bad. This is a very good beer. It's just, yeah, I don't know. For me, I like a little more depth on the hop profile, I guess. Pinch of Citra in there, I bet, could really make a difference. But this is what I have, and it's tasty. Monogamy difference, but this is what I have, and it's tasty. Monogamy Mosaic from Bellwoods Brewery, purchased at the LCBO at. Oh yeah, that was the Riverside one. I took Ben, my boy, over to Salter Street Brewery. By the way, had their pale ale. That was solid. I like that pale ale. And tried the English ale. Was it an English pale ale? I can't remember now. It was English though. Also tasty. I feel like we could have walked back the yeast profile a little, and that's saying a lot because English ales should have a distinctly English ale yeast taste. Just ask the Granite, and that's fine and great. I felt like this particular example, it might not have been that it was too much, just there wasn't enough of everything else. It was a little out of balance. It was a little too yeast driven for my tastes. Again, it wasn't a bad beer, just nitpicking a little on that. But I had a bunch of pale ales. They were delicious. And then, yeah, there were Press Gang Mutiny, a shanty band, vocal, all vocal, unaccompanied music for the most part. They do a monthly sing-along shanty day at Salter Street, last Sunday of the month. Worth checking out. Bring a bit of cash to put in the jar, and bring your best shanty singing voice. Get ready to haul on the bow line and all that sort of stuff. But Ben, he's into Celtic music. He's into shanties. He's into all sorts of sort of certainly alternative isn't the right word. I mean, it is. Alternative in the music sense has a very distinctive meaning, and I don't mean that. But he has a different taste in music than most of his friends, and I like that. So we went and sang some shanties. And then after, I popped over to the LCBO across the road and grabbed a couple of tins. And here we are having Monogamy Mosaic from Bellwoods. Very, very tasty. What would you eat with this? It's an interesting question. I mean, this would be a good cheese beer for sure. Maybe not go too crazy on the funk with that. A nice, moderately old cheddar or something Dutch would be great. You don't want to get too funky on this one. You might start to lose it. It is assertively bitter. I think in this case, actually, we're going to go somewhere spicy. Where should we go in Spicy Town? Where to go in Spicy Town? You know what? To be honest with you, I would almost do um, something spicy, but that also has a lot of spices. So a lot of the time we might lean into the jerk territory here with this, or like a Nashville hot, which is spicy but also has a lot of herbs and spices in that sauce. Those would all be good. Um, I actually think though I would go with. And you can't get it anymore. I mean, I'm sure you can get it from other restaurants, but it won't be the same. But Lynn Garden, my beloved Hakka Indian um, place in Scarborough, which I've discovered closed. We had it at Christmas time, and at some point since then, the proprietors wanted to retire. Bless their souls, and so they did, and they've closed the restaurant. And um, thanks for all the memories, I guess is what we got. They made chili chicken, which was like little bits of chicken that get breaded and fried, and then that gets cooked in a spicy chili sauce. They would also do chili fish. That was one of my jams. I really like that. So the sauce is a little sweet, quite spicy, and has some interesting. Again, so Hakka Indian is the Chinese influenced Indian cooking of the British monarchy or the British colonial times in India. So it's neither really Indian nor Chinese, but it kind of samples heavily from both. So it's very spice driven. The reason why I think that would work with this is because the various sort of bitterness, obviously, we always say spicy food, it's going to keep up. And I think those spices are going to play interestingly with the melony grapey thing. Again, neither the melon nor the grape has any particular sweetness or tartness to it, right? It's just the aromatics, almost more of like the skin of the grape, almost. So I think it'll just be an interesting interplay. I think. I think you'll never find out because you can't get it anymore. That said, go to a Hakka Indian uh, restaurant and see if they have chili fish because it won't be the same, but it'll be similar. So you could try that. That'd be all right. That's what I would do. Tofu would work too. Same context. So that's nice. Mm-mm-mm. I know this is a bit of a short one, but yeah, I'm still kind of coming back from my vacation. A little tired from vacation, and I think I'm just gonna shut her down. Nothing really to speak of in terms of events. I mean, big news if you didn't hear. I think it came out before last week's episode. I just forgot to mention it. But Left Field, founding member of Toronto Beer Podcast, Mandy Murphy, and her delightful partner Mark have secured the former Three Brewers location in Liberty Village. Beautiful space. I think they're going to make a really interesting use of it. A lot of baseball themed stuff, obviously, and decent size, not as big as their brewing facility at Wagstaff, a smaller brewery, but a brewery nonetheless. But the bigger thing, huge restaurant bar space. So they'll have food and obviously drinks. And it's in Liberty Village. So if you like me occasionally find yourself in Liberty Village wanting to go someplace to drink, and you don't necessarily want to go to a bar where the service staff are hired primarily on their looks and measurements, Left Field, it's going to be there. It's going to be great. So do check them out. I know they said when the opening date was going to be. It'll be, I think, in the summer is the idea. So keep your eyes peeled. Check them out. Very exciting news and huge congratulations to Mark and Mandy and the whole crew, really, over at Left Field. That's a huge undertaking and very excited to see how that turns out. Pardon me. Very excited to see that incredibly successful venture because that is how it will turn out. They do everything well, and they are intentional with their decisions and plans. They don't do things half-assed. And I know from having, I mean, made a podcast with Mandy, but also having spent time with both of them, this will be as well executed, well thought out, and carefully done as everything that they do. And so that's fantastic. Good for you guys, Left Field. We love you. That's it. I'm shutting it down. I'm going to do it right now. Have yourself a good night. I'll be back Monday next week. Talk at you. Drink something. Definitely will drink something. Will I? Yeah. Yeah. Next week's fine. I didn't report in. I did play a game of rugby this past week, just a short one, little 25-minute half. Did pretty good. Described. I don't even actually know if you noticed in the live video, my nose is a little red and a little swollen and a little differently crooked than it used to be. Turns out I might have broken my nose, but at this point, my nose just kind of breaks if I look at it the wrong way. So that's not really noteworthy. Otherwise, had a pretty decent game. Couple of tackles, hit a couple of rucks. Didn't score, but don't need to. We still won, so that's happy. That was good, and had a great time being hosted by Burlington Centaurs. If you're out that way, great club to be involved with. Highly recommend them. Just not as much as I would recommend playing for the beach. Come hang out with us. Anyway, that's what I got up to this weekend. And that's all I got. Yep, that's it. That's it. We're done. Hey, check out Rob Currie and the Currie Brothers. This song, Link Ray Gun, track 2 on the EP We Are the Currie Brothers. As I said, link will be in the description. You can go ahead and listen to the end of it right now. Rob is going to take you to bed or whatever it is you're about to do with the rest of your day. Have a good night. Bye.